Inflation is far from over, and the Fed is about to cut interest rates in an inflationary environment. We haven't seen anything like this since the 1970s. And what happened during the 1970s? Massive amounts of stagflation, the dreaded word that nobody wants to hear. But this is all connected, and we are seeing actual signs of a recession when we come to look at more data in the jobs and the housing market. We're going to get into all of that. But first, let's dive right in to the overall CPI numbers, where we're seeing CPI essentially go flat and increase a little bit and get up to 3.0. Look, CPI beat expectations of 3.1. So everybody expected CPI to go up and rise above 3. And core, oh, it fell to 3%. It beat that expectation. This is cooler than expected. But the reality is that the Fed kept interest rates at an extremely high level for quite some time in order to battle all of this. Yet the massive amounts of money printing that happened between the years 2020 and 2021 have not been combated yet. So we're looking at a issue here with the overall inflationary concerns. And when you look at what happened around the world, when the Bank of England decided to cut interest rates and it still was in an inflationary environment, well, inflation came roaring back. So why would this be any different for the United States? Well, we have our finger on the money printer. We have that global reserve currency. But if we keep diving into this, there's some interesting data that we need to go over to kind of clear and concisely go over what we're seeing here, because it is extremely interesting seeing that everybody's pointing it out and saying, hey, you know what? It wasn't that bad. And then the market responded. The S&P 500 skyrocketed in flight and shot up more than 2.5 trillion of market cap. So this is all after Trump threatened the tariffs at China, and now he's set to meet President Xi Jinping in 6 days with stocks at record highs. So believe it, next week will come the day where the rate cut and the rate cut will come, and China's tariff will come to a deal. So this will all be very inflationary. And the reality is everybody's been saying, oh, we don't need to worry extremely about inflation and all of this because AI will grow our way out of it. That's been the big excuse, is that, oh, we're going to get so much more productive with AI. And when you look at China, the tariff situation, and the overall just inflationary numbers sitting at above 3, you got to ask yourself, we've had AI around this entire year, and we've had AI around since last year as well. Of course, things are moving quickly, but how quickly is AI moving, and why are we seeing just a big decrease in the overall jobs market as well, right? We've seen the largest increase in unemployment, and AI is used by 0.8%. So professionals are using AI by 0.7, and that's rising with all the exposure in AI. But the cracks are appearing in the job markets. Our new hires are often first to feel the pain, which is the case this time. But the labor market is not all weak because of AI. No, no, no. There's a lot of other leading indicators that we've got going on here and other issues that we have underneath the hood. Now, this is all of the events that happened this week. Of course, we had the CPI today, but if you look at the mortgage application index, the consumer sentiment, we'll be going over those here later. But the outlook for the housing supply and affordability, well, this is where the major issue is. If you take a step back and look at the United States, we are in an affordability crisis. Literally, they're using the word crisis to describe how the United States is with housing right this second, which I don't know about you guys, but when I hear the word crisis, I don't exactly feel comfortable. So, looking at the affordability in the United States, well, it's a key issue. They talked about it. They wanted to increase the supply of affordable homes and people's ability to buy them. They wanted to make sure that, hey, this is a benefit. But at the same time, there hasn't been any change. And the definition of affordable, well, who knows what that is? And if you ask everybody around, the United States is currently experiencing a housing affordability crisis in major metropolitan areas, which is where majority of the jobs are, due to rising home prices and stagnant wage growth. While affordability has slightly improved in some areas and the overall housing affordability index has increased month over month, Americans are still unable to afford the median price. Now, the median price home is still just around $500,000. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I always try to think of it as housing. Would a nurse's salary and an engineer's salary be able to afford this? So, a very smart guy told me this at one point in time. And to be honest, it doesn't really seem to be the case. You have to make about 110,000. I know just from offhand that starting salaries for engineers with master's degrees fairly recently, it's a lot less than that, about 30 grand less than that. So we're not getting starting jobs out the gate for over 100,000, and housing affordability is well down. And so this will force people with master's degrees, PhDs, all of these guys to rough it out and live like they have multiple roommates, all of these different issues. So why are you encouraged to go to more schooling when all of this is happening? And the signs are being shown in the overall economic growth. It's been slowing growth. The forecasts keep coming down and down and down. You know how I love to point out that they revise the numbers? Well, the revision of these numbers now, well, that is all of the jobs data. They're revising the forecast outlook of what we're seeing. All of these different issues, they keep just looking at the numbers and saying, ain't good enough just yet, right? So when you take a step back and you really look at the affordability crisis, it's not just from the housing market. It's all the housing, the jobs data. All of this is all connected. Wages just aren't growing as quickly as we have seen the overall prices go. And I find this eerily similar to stagflation in the 1970s. So 1970s, there was a period with both high inflation and uneven economic growth. That's literally what we just saw. High budget deficits, US lowering interest rates, and oil embargo. So of course, we might not have this oil embargo, but collapsed managed currency rates. I mean, everybody's trying to escape the dollar now. So if you take a step back and you really look at the similarities between the 1970s and now, well, there's a lot of them. And make sure you guys are hitting that like for me and the subscribe button for me, guys. I'm going to continue to be covering all of this. But, this is where even eerily ominous Paul Volcker. And now, if you guys know, Jerome Powell, he always says he idolized Paul Volcker. And this is because he saw very big similarities between the 1970s and now. So what did he do? He had to raise interest rates. He literally took that playbook, raise interest rates super high. But the difference is right now we have Donald Trump essentially not allowing the Fed to be bipartisan and essentially just hammering in on him. Look, I think that we are in a major asset bubble. And I think Donald Trump is very smart, and he knows that people look at the stock market to see how good the economy is doing. And the economy, if you look at it in stock market terms, is doing very well. We're hitting all new all-time highs left and right in the S&P 500. But The reality is Main Street and Wall Street are separate entities, folks. We're getting away from that. And All Nighter Hider is saying, hey, new home buyers should be looking at entry level housings, not medium priced. I agree, but if you look at, the average, it's average is higher than median, just FYI, right? So, we have a lot of starter homes out there, but they're in different areas, right? I mean, even the starter home now, you can't really get a nice home for like about 300,000, at least where we're at. Saying you would agree with me that housing is conventionally bought with leverage. Wages are not paid on leverage to be comparable. That is fair. But if you look at the overall just housing affordability comparison, the percentage of wage to the median home price, it's at all-time lows. So, although I agree with you that the leverage is back and it should be there, there is, if you have the skill set, like All Nighter Hider is saying here, to buy it, fix, and flip, then you can do that. Unfortunately, a lot of young people, right? We're told to go to college, get these tech high paying jobs, right? Live life in the fast lane. Go to all these go to all schooling. So you're in massive amounts of credit card debt. You're in massive amounts of student loan debt, and then you're unable to get a decent rate on that mortgage, and you don't know what the hell you're doing to fix up the house. So that leads to a bunch of different issues. And then on top of it, in about 5 days, we are going to be essentially cutting interest rates at least 25 basis points. There is no percentage for the potential target of 50 basis points cut, but I think that the market won't necessarily move so much if we just cut 25 basis points. I think that's already priced in. And if you look at, you know, the Dixie, we're itching closer to that 99. We touched 99 earlier today. Maybe it was last night for some of you guys, or early this morning, but we touched 99. So the US dollar strength is showing a positive here, right? Although it's not necessarily where we want it to be. That is going to be on the positive side of things, and I'm going to be covering all that. And we're seeing the first time over 6,800 right now. I mean, this stock market run is incredible. Literally the best run we've ever seen in stock market history. If you go back to the April lows, I mean, it's insane. The S&P 500 is just cranking here, folks. So the S&P 500 hitting new all-time highs. Like I said, Trump knows that a lot of people, they look at their 401ks. They say their 401ks are doing fine. Retirement's doing okay. So, hey, you know what? This guy, Donnie T, with his spray tan and what have you, he's not too bad, right? That's what he knows. He knows that these guys are looking at this. Even though we look at, you guys, listeners of this channel, I know 93% of you guys are not subscribed. Can you believe that? So help me out here, folks. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs just so I can maybe get a girlfriend and I don't have to be coming to you guys with this slick back haircut. So help me get to 1,000 subs so I can start telling all the lady friends at the bars here. But I'm going to be covering all of this for you guys. So make sure you guys are smoking that like Cheech and Chong, hitting the subscribe button, telling a friend to tell a friend. And I'll catch you guys all at the next one.